Welcome to Mind Set in Stone podcasts, where we dive deep into the most compelling books on the shelf. Join hosts Dave and Poppy as they uncover the stories, themes, and ideas that shape our understanding and inspire curiosity. Get ready to explore the big ideas that leave a lasting impact. Let's get started.
Hey everyone, and welcome to your deep dive.
Today we're going to be diving into the world of influence. How it works.
Oh yeah.
Why it matters.
And the science behind it all.
Right.
So get ready to level up your understanding of what makes people tick.
That's right. You've provided some really fascinating material here on influence, so let's see what we can uncover.
Absolutely. We're taking a deep dive into The Science of Influence by Kevin Hogan.
And I have to say, I was so surprised by some of these insights in this book.
First impressions, subconscious drivers, even ethical persuasion techniques, it's all here.
It's a field where even a little bit of knowledge, can go such a long way.
Right.
Whether you are, in a negotiation, you're crafting a message.
Or even just trying to understand your own decisions better.
Yeah.
One thing that really made me stop and think was how quickly we form opinions about others.
The book highlights that it takes just a matter of seconds, right?
It's true.
Research suggests that it takes as little as 4 seconds to form an impression of somebody, and that's before you've even uttered a word.
It's primal. When you think about it, our brains are hardwired to assess potential threats or advantages in a flash.
Think about our ancestors. They had to make these snap judgments about strangers in order to survive.
Wow, that makes a lot of sense.
And those snap judgments, as the book explains,
they're often based on things like how we perceive someone's status and attractiveness.
Precisely. And those initial impressions, whether they're accurate or not, can be really tough to shake.
Yeah.
That's why, how you present yourself from your clothing to your body language
can have a really lasting impact.
It's like that moment
in the Gore-Bush debate, where Gore walked over and tried to approach Bush.
Oh, yeah, I remember that.
It totally backfired.
Yes.
Because even though it might have been a friendly gesture,
it kind of violated his space a little bit and made people uncomfortable.
It did.
And it just reminds us that even these subtle actions can have really unintended consequences.
Right. So it's not just about dressing for success and having a firm handshake.
Well, those things matter, but it goes deeper than that. It's about really cultivating a presence
that conveys confidence, warmth, competence.
Yeah.
Think about people that you've just instantly connected with.
What are the qualities that they project?
I bet it's a combination of factors, both verbal and nonverbal.
And here's where it gets really interesting for me, the role of the unconscious.
The book talks about how much of our decision-making happens below the surface, driven by things that we don't even realize.
Absolutely. Our unconscious minds are powerhouses.
They're influencing everything from our preferences to our choices.
Right.
And oftentimes, they're overriding logic and reason.
The book gave an example that really clicked with me, luxury car commercials.
They rarely ever talk about the price, right? They show this feeling.
Status, success, maybe even a bit of adventure.
Exactly. They're appealing to our aspirations.
Not necessarily the logic.
Right.
It's like they're tapping into this primal desire to be a part of something exclusive.
Oh, absolutely.
The book talks about this fundamental need to belong.
Yeah, and it makes you wonder, how much of our behavior is driven by this need to fit in?
To be part of a group?
That's a fascinating question.
And the book actually cites studies on social conformity.
Where they had participants judge the length of lines, and they surrounded them with actors who intentionally gave the wrong answers.
Oh, wow.
And a huge percentage of the participants actually conformed to the group.
And gave the wrong answer, even though they could clearly see it wasn't right.
Wow. That's kind of alarming when you think about it.
It is.
It shows how much we want to be accepted.
Yeah.
Even if it means ignoring our own judgment.
Exactly. And, smart influencers, whether they're marketers or politicians.
They understand how to tap into that.
Yeah.
But it's not always about manipulation, though, is it?
Mm-hmm.
The book also talks about how these principles can be used ethically as well.
Right. It's like that reciprocity principle where you feel obligated to return a favor,
I remember the book gave the example of getting a free sample in the mail. And suddenly you're more likely to buy something from them.
Exactly.
Even if it was just a tiny little sample.
It's a classic example of how even just a small gesture can create this sense of obligation that can lead to bigger decisions down the line.
Wow.
And it goes back to this deep-seated desire for fairness.
And reciprocity,
Yeah.
We want to maintain that balance
Right.
in our social interactions.
It's funny how those subconscious things are always working,
It is fascinating, isn't it?
Speaking of choices.
I was floored when the book talked about how too many options can actually be a bad thing.
It's true.
That's why I can never decide what I want at a restaurant.
Right.
When they give you, like, a giant menu.
Choice overload is a real thing.
Yeah.
When we're bombarded with all these options, our brains just get overwhelmed.
And we're less likely to actually make a decision at all.
Right.
Or feel satisfied with the choice that we do make.
The book mentioned a study where they offered people all these different jams to try.
Right. Yeah.
And the people who were given less options were actually more likely to buy.
Than those who had, tons of choices, which is crazy.
It seems counterintuitive.
It really does.
But it makes sense when you really think about it.
It does.
It's about simplifying those choices.
Yeah.
And, it connects to another point that the book makes, too.
Which is that we often overestimate our own decision-making skills.
Oh, totally.
We remember our wins, but we forget all those, not so great choices.
All those times we messed up, yeah.
Oh, I'm sure that happens to me more than I even realize.
So how do we get better at making decisions, especially when we're faced with these big choices?
Well, this is where I think understanding things like framing and anchoring becomes really powerful.
Okay.
These techniques give us like a reference point.
Which helps us make clearer and ultimately more confident decisions.
Can you give me an example of how framing works in real life? Because I'm having trouble wrapping my head around it.
Sure. Imagine you're buying a car.
And the salesperson shows you two options. A basic model for $25,000 or a premium model for $30,000.
Oh, okay.
Now, that salesperson might frame the premium model as only $5,000 more for all of these additional features.
Right.
So that framing subtly shifts your perception of the value there.
I see.
And suddenly, that price difference seems smaller.
Wow. That is subtle but effective.
It is.
Right.
And anchoring is similar.
It's the idea that first piece of information that we get, what we call the anchor, can heavily influence our judgments moving forward.
So, like, let's say you're negotiating your salary for a new job.
That first number that's thrown out there, whether it's you or the employer, can really set the tone for the entire negotiation.
That makes a lot of sense.
I'm going to be paying a lot more attention to those anchoring effects now, I think.
It's everywhere.
So we've covered first impressions, the unconscious mind, decision-making. What other insights does the book offer about this whole science of influence?
Well, one key takeaway for me is the importance of building your personal brand.
Okay.
Because whether we realize it or not, we are all brands.
So it's not just for companies and products?
Yeah. No, not at all.
We all have a personal brand.
We do.
Okay.
It's how we differentiate ourselves.
I know. In this world where there's so much noise, so much going on.
It's like what makes you.
Exactly.
What makes you stand out.
Exactly. So it's about defining what is it that makes you unique, your skills, your knowledge, those unique qualities that you bring.
What do you want to be known for?
What's your value proposition?
So how can our listeners start building their own brand, based on what they're passionate about?
That's the million-dollar question, isn't it? It all starts with self-awareness.
Asking yourself, what am I truly passionate about?
Okay.
What are my natural talents?
What are those values that I really want to embody?
Yeah.
And once you have a firm grasp on those core strengths,
then you can start crafting that message.
That's really going to resonate
with the people that you want to reach.
So it's like you're coming up with your own personal mission statement in a way.
Exactly.
And remember, like the book mentions,
building a strong brand takes time.
Yeah.
It takes dedication.
For sure.
There's really no shortcuts to this.
It's about consistently showing up.
Right.
Refining your skills.
Yeah.
Nurturing those relationships.
Proving your value. Delivering on those promises.
It seems like understanding your audience is really a big part of that, too.
Absolutely.
Who are you trying to reach and what matters to them?
You got to tailor your message.
You got to tailor your approach so that it really resonates with your audience's values, their desires, their experiences.
It's like you're speaking their language.
Exactly. Because what works for a tech CEO might not work for, a kindergarten teacher. This whole influence thing, it's a real art, isn't it?
It is.
It's not just about being charismatic or having a good marketing team. It's more nuanced than that.
So much more.
It's about really understanding, the human psyche.
The science of persuasion.
And that art of building genuine connections.
And it's about using those insights ethically
Right.
to create win-win situations for everyone involved.
The book also talked about how important it is to be adaptable.
Yeah,
You know, you can't just use the same approach with everyone all the time.
you are absolutely right.
Adaptability is key, you know?
Yeah.
In the world of influence, there's no one-size-fits-all method here.
Different people respond to different things.
Right.
You got to read the room, understand the nuances of each situation,
Yeah.
and adapt your style to fit.
It reminds me of that pacing and leading technique that the book talked about.
Where you kind of mirror the other person's communication style
Uh-huh.
and then try to subtly guide them toward your point of view.
It is a subtle art.
But when it's done well, it can be incredibly effective,
Right.
for building that rapport
Yeah.
and that trust.
So it's less about, like, pushing your own agenda.
And more about making sure everyone feels heard
Exactly.
and respected.
Active listening is so key there.
Yeah,
You know, pay attention to their words, their body language,
right.
how they're saying it, even the things that they're not saying.
The book really stressed that, being authentic is so important.
Oh, absolutely.
People can spot a fake cone a mile away.
A mile away. They can sniff it out.
Authenticity is crucial, for building that trust.
And that influence.
So you've really got to be true to yourself
Be true to yourself.
and your values and what you're actually about.
Your message.
People
and-
can tell, right, when you're not being genuine.
Absolutely.
So there's no need to, put on a facade.
Just let your true self come through.
Let your true self shine through.
I love that.
Right.
This deep dive has been so eye-opening for me. I'm going to be thinking about influence in a whole new way from now on.
That's what we like to hear.
It's everywhere.
From my everyday interactions to those really big life decisions.
It is. It's all around us.
And for our listeners, if you're looking for more on this topic, it's fascinating stuff.
Fascinating.
Make sure to check out The Science of Influence by Kevin Hogan.
It's packed with these amazing insights that will make you think differently about how you interact with everyone,
It really will.
how you make decisions.
For sure.
It's really good stuff.
Absolutely. Highly recommend.
So until next time, keep those minds curious.
Keep them curious.
And remember, influence is not about control.
It's about connection.
That's it, connection.
We hope you're leaving with fresh insights and a spark of inspiration. Remember to subscribe, leave a review, and check back for more episodes as we dive into new worlds of thought, one book at a time. Until then, keep your mind set in stone and your curiosity open. This has been a Big L Riz Media podcast, where big ideas meet lasting impressions.